Series makes its second stop at Pocono, Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Very difficult racetrack. Doesn't have 4 turns, as we're used to seeing. It has just 3. And a little bit of overcast skies, a little bit different than what we've seen over the past 2 weeks, where it has been sweltering hot. The heat not as big of an issue today. Once again, behind the wheel of the 88 is not Dale Earnhardt Jr. It is Jeff Gordon. For the 3rd week in a row, Dale Earnhardt Jr., suffering concussion-like symptoms, will not be behind the wheel. They will reevaluate and find out if he will make it to Watkins Glen in a week. Hello, everyone. Alongside Steve Letarte, Jeff Burton, I'm Rick Allen. Let's focus a little bit on this racetrack. We have Dale Earnhardt Jr. not behind the wheel. Jeff Gordon, the winningest driver at Pocono, behind the wheel. But how about the momentum right now that Kyle Busch is on? He comes to a racetrack where he's never won at Pocono. One of only 2 tracks that he's never won on. Can he win finally this weekend and notch this one off the record books?
Yeah, I'm gonna go way out on a limb and say he can.
Okay.
You know, listen. You come out of Indianapolis. We've seen people before leave here and go to Indy and run very well, and vice versa. So it was, you know, it's not gonna surprise me to see him run well for sure. But you know, I go back and think about the cars from Hendrick here in the spring in the first race. I mean, the 88 and the 24, they were battling out for the win late in the race. So this is a racetrack where other people have run well, and they can win too. So by no means do I think is Kyle Busch just going to come in here without a challenge. I think there are a lot of teams that can run well here.
Yeah, Rick, you mentioned the racetrack with only 3 corners. You would think if you only had 3 corners, you could get at least a couple the same. And no 2 corners are alike here at Pocono. 3 very unique corners, but that really isn't the biggest difference to this racetrack. In my mind, it's shifting. With the NASCAR allowed rules here specific to this racetrack, each driver team had the opportunity to shift on all 3 straightaways. I think that's the biggest difference for TRD and Toyota versus the Chevrolets. Indianapolis last week, well, it's that flat, very fast square, and we saw the dominance of Toyota. I think one of the reasons we see the Chevrolets more, I'd say more aggressive, running towards the front, more competitive, is because they have an opportunity to shift. It must match the package a little bit better.
Steve, you swept the races here at Pocono as a crew.
You can say that again. That was a fun weekend.
I can say that over and over, but the reason I bring it up is that was when Hendrick was really good, and they were dominating races. They were dominating seasons. Could this be a racetrack where Hendrick can come back and maybe get out of the slump that they've been in over the past few weeks?
Well, I'll be honest. I think any racetrack they're going to have circled, they want to come out and try to break the slump, because I think this is a momentum game. I think Toyota, TRD, Jacobs Racing has the advantage of momentum. I think Jimmy Johnson's recovery last week back into the top 5, while they didn't have raw speed, that had to give him just a little bit of an uptick moving into this weekend. And like Jeff mentioned, you go back to historic performance here just 1 race ago. We saw Kurt Busch win with a Hendrick engine. A lot of Hendrick engines run up front, and the Hendrick Motorsports teams, the 4 teams within that camp, other than Casey Kane, who had trouble early, the other 3 all ran very, very well. So without a doubt, this has to be a track that they look at. Maybe they can move that needle and get the ball rolling in the right direction.
Yeah, we saw the numbers there. Obviously, Hendrick has had incredible success in this racetrack, just not as of lately.
Well, that goes with every racetrack. I don't think that's Pocono. You know, we talk about so many racetracks around there in a 15-race winless streak. Well, not 15 races. Well, you have won well over 200 races as a company. A 15-race winless streak is real, and it's large. And, you know, no one wants to admit it within the organization, but you can just feel a little bit of tension. You know, these drivers want to go to victory lane. Dale Jr. being out is a distraction. They want to have their driver back. Jeff Gordon is back in the car, and I think that's something to talk about. You talk about Jeff Gordon. Forget what he does on Sunday. I wonder what it's like to have him back. You know, we talked about it being a down year for Hendrick. This is also the first year in recent memory that Jeff Gordon hasn't been in their meetings discussing what we need to do to get better. So, Jeff, we've talked about this. Maybe having him drive the car will help them point in the correct direction to get it better.
Well, and Dale Jr. said that. You know, Dale Jr. in an interview said he was excited that Jeff Gordon was in his team, because he thought Jeff Gordon could help him in regard to how to drive the car. Can he drive the car a little differently? But also could get in there and help the team. And that maybe in the long run, this would be a good thing, because having Jeff Gordon, I mean, that's a great asset, right? Have him come in there and drive the car, have communication, work with the team, and then come back and relay that information, because communication, all those things that happen between a driver and team, it's so important. And a guy like Jeff Gordon can help you with that.
And joining our team down in the garage is Parker Kligerman.
Hey, thanks, Rick. And one thing I wanted to talk about as we get into this practice that as a driver I'm looking at is shifting. And not the idea that we're shifting here, but it's where you shift. And talking to a lot of teams, where and how you shift really has an effect on the race car as you get into the corner. And what I'm talking about is that a lot of times here you'll shift very late in the corner, especially in turn one, and that can very, very much unsettle the car, and then you immediately have to get back to the throttle. But in talking to some teams, the other thing that they're looking at is entry stability. Well, where you shift can have an effect on entry stability. So those two things go hand in hand. So watch for the drivers that are able to have entry stability and shift late will maybe have the best cars come the end of this practice.
Thanks, Parker. Another little bit of insight there with the driver perspective. As the cars wait to go out onto the racetrack, shifting obviously, when somebody says shifting to a normal fan at home watching, they think, well, my manual transmission, I push the clutch in, I put it from, third to second as I'm downshifting, or second to third. That's not the way it works with a race car.
No, so let's be clear. At every oval or closed circuit other than Sonoma and Watkins Glen, everywhere we go, the driver restarts in either second or third gear. Jeff gets up to high gear, runs in fourth gear, and that's what they run every lap. They lift off the gas into the corner, stays in fourth gear, they get back. They never touch the shifter handle after either a restart or some pit stops. Well, here at Pocono, every lap, the driver has the opportunity. Some won't take it for other reasons, but you can come down the front stretch up to fourth gear, go down to turn one, you downshift to third, and you do this in every corner. You see Casey Kane's car being apparently pushed out of line. Maybe it's some last-minute adjustments they want to make to that car. But to your point, when they make those shifts, they just barely let out of gas and just yank the shifter handle into the next gear. They don't have to push the clutch or anything.
Yeah. So when Parker mentions unsettling the car, if the RPMs aren't right, I mean, the engine is what is changing that as far as if you're slowing down or speeding up. So if the RPMs aren't right, that could unsettle your car.
Well, no question. And you have to match those RPMs up, meaning that if you downshift too soon, then it has way too many RPMs, and it shocks the rear tires, and maybe we can actually wheel hop it. So we'll see that next week at Watkins Glen for sure. If you see a wheel hop here, you're in big trouble. It's not gonna be pretty. So we see the 5 car here working. Looks like they plugged the ECU in. I don't know if they have some sort of a problem they're trying to figure out, or if they're just setting the fuel injection to do what they want it to do.
Yeah, obviously they're making some adjustments, having an issue. But we're gonna get a sneak peek, Rick. You talk about shifting. Well, it's pretty simple to understand what they do with their hand, right? They go from third to fourth. But this is a really cool shot, I think. So we're looking at Casey Kane's feet. So you see all the way to the left-hand side of your screen's the clutch, the middle's the brake, the right's the throttle, just like it is in your street car at home. So we can have a sneak peek to see how busy he is with his feet on the racetrack, on pit road. It's going to be a cool shot we're going to revisit all weekend long.
Yeah, and see his right foot, the piece above his right foot, that is in case the throttle hangs. He can reach up there, put his foot underneath that, pull it back up to try to get the throttle to be unhung. So obviously he doesn't hit the wall head on at wide open speed. So that's what that's about. This is a great shot. I'm gonna be excited to watch it.
And you drivers push as hard as you can on that throttle to see if you can get as much speed. They continue to clean up the track. We'll be back for the start of practice from Pocono after this.